Victoria Pearson, but you can call me V. And as you know, sometimes I'll do you a little artsy vlog and sometimes I'll do you a little witchy vlog. Well, this week I'm doing kind of a cross between the two. As you will know, if you have seen some of my altar tour videos, I often have little shrines to various different deities around my house. And I really wanted to improve the one for the goddess Hecate. I ordered what I thought would be a very cool brass statue of her from Temu. That may have been my first mistake. And when it arrived, it was a very badly painted resin statue. But the details on it look lovely. So I thought I would give it a little makeover and make it just a little bit more special. Now, I'm not sure that my camera quite conveys just how awful this looks, to be honest. It is very badly painted in some kind of gloss paint. It feels kind of plasticky. And so I thought my first step was probably going to have to be to rough it up a little bit while I decided how I was going to paint it. So I took a tiny little bit of sandpaper, an offcut actually from my sanding discs, and just started giving it a real scuff sand, not a proper sand. I wasn't trying to get back to the base of whatever this was. I just wanted it to be able to have my paint adhere to it. I'm going to be using an acrylic paint and I didn't want it to peel off once it was dry. At this point, I really wasn't sure whether I was just going to attempt to make it look bronze, because I have some metallic acrylic paints which I've been dying to use for something, or if I was going to try and paint the whole thing sort of realistic colours and multicolours. And so while I was sanding, I was trying to decide whether I had the patience to try and get into all these intricate little details with my paintbrush. And I actually did in the end. I decided that I could paint it realistically, and then if I absolutely hated it, I would just paint it all black and then go over it with one of the bronze or the silver or the gold paints. I really loved this bronze paint, and so I took just a tiny bit to do one of the details on the statue, the stropholos that the Hecate is standing on in the statue, and see how the colour looked coming through on top of the awful colour that it had been painted underneath. After I'd done that, I decided that I did want to paint all of the little details of the statue separately, and so thus began an epic journey to finish painting this statue. It took me an extraordinarily long time to do this, because in some areas I had to do base layers first, and I kept on messing bits up because the details were so tiny, and my back was killing me by the very end of it. I won't make you sit through hours of it though, so I'm just going to speed this up by about 5 times, so you don't have to sit for as long. Enjoy! One bit that I did really enjoy doing was painting the little dogs that are on the statue. Hecate is associated with black dogs, and of course I recently lost my little black dog, and so it felt like a little homage to him. Again, I mixed a tiny little bit of metallic paint in with the black there to give them a little bit of a sheen, and the one where he's got a little tongue visible, I did do his tongue metallic red as well, and it looks really cute. I mixed some of the metallic silver in with ordinary acrylic blue paint, and I made this beautiful sort of night sky for her cloak, which came out so well that I ended up mixing some of the metallic red with the blue to make a purpley aspect for a different part of her dress, and then mixed a little bit of the silver metallic in with my green paint later on, and I just love the finish that it's given. I'm so glad that I mixed the metallic paints with my acrylic paints. There were a lot of really tiny details in this, like the little snake that wraps around her arm, and the tiny keys that are hanging on her belt, and the knife that she's got in her other hand. And so it was quite tricky to do this because I don't have tiny brushes. I usually paint quite big canvases, and so I didn't have very many, but I managed to get in there without making it too blobby and messy. Although at this point I still wasn't happy with the skin tone. It was a bit too light for me, but I was waiting for that to fully dry so that I could carry on with it. The little snake details on the rocks below, arguably I should have done after I had painted the rocks below, and I did have to touch them up a lot of times. But I could see it coming together now, and at this point I was fairly confident that I wasn't going to just paint the whole thing black and start again. Having her stand on a rock made me decide that the background needed to be stone. I had thought about making it a sort of wood effect, but I'm really glad that I decided to make it stone because I think it looks a lot better because of that. But I did leave the background behind her head white because I decided that looked more like the moon. Hecate isn't massively associated with the moon, but she is associated with witchcraft and arcane knowledge and things like that the moon itself is associated with, and so I think it works for the symbolism for her. I really loved the effect of mixing the silver with the green paint here because it made the laurel leaves just so gorgeous, and it gave them a lot of dimension as well, which is another thing the metallic paint has done. It's hidden any imperfections that were in it and any bits where I scratched too deeply with my sandpaper, and the shimmery effect just sort of makes your eye glide over that now. I'm actually really pleased with how this turned out in the end. The little details with the snakes on the rocks took me an absolute age, as did the little white orb that she is standing on, but I'm so pleased with how the metallic colours shine through. I love the little dogs. They're absolutely adorable, and the bronze bit didn't turn out too bad in the end either. I also managed to pick out the little details on the key with that. And the knife, I did struggle a little bit painting around the knife there without getting the paint on the dress. It was a very frustrating project all in all. But I'm very pleased with how it turned out in the end. Now, I did originally make this for my bedroom altar, but I like it so much that it didn't end up there. In fact, it ended up in my hallway instead, because Hecate is also a goddess of liminal spaces as well as doorways and keys, and because she is a goddess that could go to the underworld as well as the overworld and up to Olympus as well. And so she is the goddess of pathways, she's the goddess of crossroads, she's the keeper of the keys, and she unlocks all of the doors. And so having her in the hallway just sort of felt right. I've got her tucked up near the ceiling, so where I don't think anybody will particularly notice her, but if they do, I think that they will think that she looks pretty cool. Let me know what you reckon. Do you think that I nailed it, or do you think that I should spray paint the whole thing black and start over again? I hope that you enjoyed watching that, painting that with me. I'm actually surprised at how well it turned out. I was thinking to myself, well, I could always just paint over it and just have it black if it didn't work out right. But I actually really loved the detail that came out on it, and I think that adding those metallic colours worked really well. Join me on Monday for my next vlog. Not quite sure what we're talking about just yet. I might take you on another little day trip next week, if you behave yourselves. But either way, I will be here every single morning in your shorts, taking a great big deep breath, letting you know what I'm grateful for, sometimes letting you know what's challenging me that day. And I will also be here on a Witchy Wednesday doing an intuitive tarot card pull for you as well. So like and subscribe, or don't, I'm not your mum. And either way, you have yourself a magical week.